Good day, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Persevering with PCOS live show. I am Yashi of the Mind of Yash, and I am your host for the show and for tonight. And it's a very special episode for me because I really wanted to round out the month, which this month is a lot of awareness around depression and mental health check-ins, and we even had the World Mental Health Day on October 10th. And it has been a month, funny enough, that mental health has been a lot on my mind, and it has also been something that I realized that you always have to keep working on. That you may not always be 100% where you want to be mentally, but it is a journey, and there are ebbs and flows. And so here I am tonight because I really wanted to share a little bit about my own mental health journey and give you a bit of insight, and hopefully will give you some hope, give you some support, and know that you're not alone in what you're facing, and that it really is important that we do those mental health check-ins, and with ourselves, with each other, with our loved ones. And I really wanted to be a space of authenticity and vulnerability, because I think that's the way that we are going to grow. It's been too much that everybody is trying to do it all by themselves and trying to put on a brave face or a quote unquote strong face. And really, it's the times where you struggle where you should be the most open, you know, with some wisdom, of course, but it's so important to keep this conversation going. And I just want to really first share a quote that I shared today on my social media pages, from one actress, Glenn Close. And it says, "What mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, and more unashamed conversation." And I really do believe that. I believe, oh my, I believe that it's something we need to be talking about a lot more. And I do appreciate the fact that people are talking about it more and sharing more about their journeys. But I think there is still some maybe some shame, some stigma, some guilt, even embarrassment when it comes to talking about these things. And I really want to help in that realm to really banish those type of things. You sharing from a place where you're ready to share, not pushing yourself to overshare, or to, if you're uncomfortable sharing certain things, but to know that things are going to be all right, to know that there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a struggle that is happening. You are not the storm, you are not the struggle. It's just something that you're dealing with, and that's something that I have to tell myself as well, because a lot of times when I come on here to talk about these things, it's because I've either been there, I'm going through it, I can relate, I can empathize, I can sympathize. I just know. And I know everybody's on their own path and have their own storms to face in life. But we're all in this together. And there's a reason that, we have to form things like friendships and relationships and these things, to really pull through certain things. And I know the pandemic, especially, has been very hard on a lot of us for many, many reasons. Isolation being one, and, stability and continuity, these things weigh a lot on people's minds. So it's so much more important to do those mental health check ins. So, my journey with mental health was one that was an interesting one. I guess I reflect more and more on things that have happened in my life that maybe at the time I didn't really understand what I was feeling, or you know I didn't have the tools to deal with. So the first thing I think I can remember when it comes to a mental health struggle I had was when I was in high school. I was a student who loved school. I was excited to go to school every day to be with my friends. Um, I want to say it's for the work as well, but mostly like to be with my friends. I loved school so much, and there was a period of time where I believe now when I look back, I was going through a bout of depression, and I remember not eating breakfast and not feeling to go to school and not really feeling to do much for a period of time. And I didn't understand it then. And it could have been two things. It could have been, my hormonal state at the time because I was not diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome yet. But maybe it was a factor in what I was feeling. And then also not having the tools to deal with the stresses of school and exams and growing up and trying to understand your body and all these things at that time, I think would have contributed to that. And I really wish I could remember exactly when things turned around, but I don't. But I just remember that it was really tough time and I knew something was wrong when I didn't feel like going to school and it was very hard and I couldn't eat and these things. But eventually things got better, and I really don't know if I had a hormonal shift, if I found something different, if I somehow found the joy again, but I was able to come through that. And I can't remember too much in terms of like if that happened again after high school, but I remember when I had a moment where I thought, okay, this is a problem. And that was when I got married. So I guess maybe, and if you've been tuning into these shows for some time, I would have had some guests on where we talked about anxiety and anxiety attacks and these things. And it really seemed to stem from major life changes. And I guess getting married was one major change, but there were a lot of things that happened right before that could have added to it as well. But I remember when my husband and I were on our honeymoon and things were going really well. And I remember one night we were talking about something and I couldn't remember the name of an actress. And I started to obsess over it. Like I couldn't think about anything else. I was trying to force my mind into remembering it. It was, driving me a little bit crazy to be quite honest. And I that was before, the age of not the age, as of 2012. So like in the internet and Wi-Fi and these things weren't as prevalent. So the only place that we could have gotten Wi-Fi was a restaurant a couple blocks down from where we were staying. And because it was bothering me so much, I made my husband go outside. I think it was very late in the night as well, and walk down to the restaurant to go and Google this actress so that I could sleep. Her name was Mila Kunis, by the way. And I've had a lot of moments from then. I had a lot of moments with that, with anxiety that showed up in the strangest of ways. And it had so many things that would come up that would spur it on. Maybe an insecurity that I had, or maybe another instance where I couldn't remember something and I would obsess over it until I remember. Maybe when I made a mistake, I would have these anxiety attacks, which was something that I didn't know people experienced. And when I experienced one for the first time, I mean, it is akin to a heart attack, really. You can't breathe, you can barely function. And so it started to become a real problem in my life. And all other things. Now, if you meet me, and even if you've watched this Persevering with PCOS live show often, or even any of my other lives, you'd see that I am generally a positive person. I'm what people would call bubbly. I try my best to be a light. and I try my best to cheer people up and be somebody that people could go to when they have their own struggles, um, so that I could help. But little, I guess, anybody else knew was the dark side that I was going through, where I didn't feel like sharing my own struggles with persons for many reasons. One, I think I really wanted to be able to deal with things on my own. I wanted that ideology, or that that this world thinks that to be strong means you need to hold things together 100% of the time on your own. You can't show any weak moments. That's the only way that you're strong. So I think I was conditioned that way as well. And two, because I felt that so many other persons were dealing with so many things in their lives that I didn't want to be another burden. So I allowed persons to, you know, tell me their stories and share with me, and I would have the most encouraging words for them. But then in my own situations, I was unable to do that for myself. And I really was very hard on myself. And the only person I really would have opened up to is my husband. So you could imagine that that even created a sort of codependent kind of mentality with me, because he was the person I would talk to 24/7 before we were married even. And then we had other struggles in terms of our relationship and approval, not being able to be together as a couple, and then our whole spiritual journey, which is another story I would share sometime, hopefully. And so you can imagine that I looked to him to be my rock, to be my safe place a lot of the times. And that was a problem too, because there were times when he would have to go into training for like months at a time where there's like no contact. And it would those times were like some of the worst times, because I would be struggling and I would have no outlet. And I would look do to things like, it's when the show Friends really became something that cheered me up. To this day, I could just watch Friends whenever I feel down and I would feel better. And other things like being out in nature, I found Zumba, and I had to find these different ways to cope with these things. And but I hated those moments. I felt so out out of control, and I hated that. I have a part of my personality where it is when I don't feel like I have control of the situation, I would have that anxiety. So I understand what it means to go through those things, and also to have those bouts of depression, because I'm a person who also feels very deeply. And I would listen to somebody struggle and somehow become my struggle. And that's not very healthy either. So that's another thing I had to learn, like how to have those healthy boundaries. And I think I'm still learning that, because it's very difficult at times to close myself off completely in that way, but it's a work in progress. So I'm just saying all this to say that you really never know what is behind somebody's smile, in somebody's mind. And I know what it is to feel that despair sometimes, and that hopelessness. It's very difficult. And I don't want to compare anybody's journey and say, like, I know there are persons that are facing things that might be considered worse than what I'm going through or what you're going through. And it's not really about comparison, because we were all made for different paths, for different journeys. And what I was made to deal with, nobody else could probably do it. And the same for you guys as well. Whatever it is you're built to go through, I definitely probably couldn't have gone through it myself. So everybody is on a unique journey, and I think a lot of times we kind of forget that, and we fall into this thing where we're comparing. It's like, It's like, well, you going through this, but I'm going through this, and it's so much worse, and you should be, you should be okay with what you're doing, and look at all the blessings in your life. And I'm not saying to discount those things. Be definitely look around and see how beautiful life is, what you're blessed with, the persons that are around. But don't compare what you're going through to anybody else to feel embarrassed, to feel even like they shouldn't be complaining about what they're going through and these things, because everybody really is on a unique journey and needs to have the different tools to do it. So that's why I also want to say that's why it's so important to me for persons to be kind to one another, because I know it's very easy for us to get caught up in our own world, because so much is going on, guys. I know even before the pandemic, the world was at this very fast pace, and it's really hard to make those connections and form those relationships. And everybody is kind of on a surface level because we don't have time to talk to one another. And then even when we have the time, we might be too tired because you're working all day, or you're pushing your business, or you're staying with the kids and everything like that. So much is going on, we don't have the time to form that deeper level. And it's so unfortunate because that's kind of what we need. We don't need these surface conversations anymore. It's like, hey, we on another adverse weather, which is, we have to talk about that too. But we also need to talk about the things that are bothering us, the like mental health matters, about learning about one another on a deeper level, and not judging one another, being kind, understanding, trying to see things from another perspective, accepting persons where they are, not putting our own beliefs, our own journey, because we are going through life and we are shaped by what we have gone through. So I'm going to see things a certain way and you're going to see them a certain way. And we might not agree, but it doesn't mean that there's no love there. It does not mean that one person is better than the other or anything like that. And that's something that I had to learn a lot in my journey as well, especially in my marriage. Um, because my husband and I came from very different backgrounds, very different ways of solving problems, of dealing with conflict, of just a different view of life. And we actually have learned to take a little bit from each other's experience, because I look at it now, it's like, okay, I needed to learn a little bit of go with the flow, and being happy and celebrating like the little wins. And he learned from our side. It's like, you need to consider things a little bit more, and see how maybe your tone or something might affect how somebody's feelings. So we can all learn from one another. And I think it's such an important thing when it comes to mental health, because we need to understand that persons have their own experience, and I think we could only get stronger if it is we meet somebody and we see that they're reacting a certain way, instead of us reacting based on our experience and being like, well, this person shouldn't be this way because X, Y, and Z. We try to go behind that and see, like, okay, why is this person reacting this way? Okay, how did they form this belief? Talk to them about it. But so many times we don't talk. We don't want to get past there. I guess sometimes it's scary to get there, because it means going past there means you have to open up about things that you've been through, and maybe it's not necessarily the most sunshiny things, or the something that you want to boast about. But I think we've reached just this point where we need to intentionally be that way. We need to intentionally share that side of us, because it's too much going on social media and seeing just the bright spots in persons' lives. Now, I'm not saying to go and be Debbie Downer on your social media profiles and always be complaining and sharing about the struggles. You can't talk about the good things in your life, you can't celebrate those things. I'm not saying no, but the problem is when we start to we start to compare ourselves in that way, and we start to look at somebody and think that this is they have the life that you want, or that you're not good enough, or you're judging them because you feel like they shouldn't be doing certain things. Everybody gotta live their life, guys. Everybody has to do what makes them happy at the end of the day. And I think that's why mental health is in such a crisis right now, because everybody is canceling each other for something that somebody says, or reacting certain ways. And let me qualify that, right? It is very important to keep people accountable. If you see somebody who is doing something that is wrong or maybe hurtful to a group of persons, definitely use it as a moment, a teachable moment for persons to learn from it, for a conversation to be had. But just jumping and canceling or judging or being like writing that person off completely, I think it's so extreme. And you guys, if you're looking at this now live with me, or if you're looking at the replay, definitely leave comments. I really like to see the perspective of other persons, because it helps me understand, and it helps me reevaluate the things that I might be thinking, because I could be probably having a wrong assumption in my head, or a wrong bias, and I need somebody to question that. I need somebody to hold me accountable. Okay, and I think it's such a skill that we need to learn, to how to keep each other accountable, but in from a place of love, and not from a place of judgment. And it's so many things that I want to say on the topic, but I just want to share with you that it's like I understand what it means to just go down a spiral because you don't feel good enough. I know what it means to be dealing with a certain challenge and you don't know how you're going to come out of it, how you're going to overcome it, and feeling like you're losing hope, or you have no alternative, you have nobody to go to, having nobody that you can trust. I understand those things, and I've been there. But there is hope. There is hope, and it starts from us talking about it. It starts from us loving each other despite of it. It starts with us not even judging ourselves about why we respond to certain things. And I want to share something with you that helped me on my journey, because I think I was dealing with anxiety on a real base, like on a serious basis, maybe up till February 2020, I think. There's still moments where I falter and I feel myself going down that way, but it's come a long way. And it really stemmed from looking at my daughter and realizing, and then even looking at how I was brought up, and realizing that these things can be learned based on generational trauma, generational patterns. And looking at my daughter and seeing her strong will, seeing her confidence, and realizing like it's like, oh, I don't have the skill to cultivate that, because I don't know, I don't have a good self-image. I don't have that courage and confidence. um, I was very afraid. And she really helped me look beyond that and try to find ways to overcome it. And it was not an easy thing. And it's not an easy thing where you could just be like, yes, and I'm good now. I'm good now. I'm strong and I don't need anybody, and I have these skills. It doesn't work like that. It's not an overnight thing, and it's a continuous thing. So last year, when I was on the stage, now there's something that I've learned through the women's school, and it's a lot to do with the power of your thoughts and the neurological wiring that you have. And a lot of those wiring is formed, those patterns are formed based on our experiences, based on what we went through in life. Those they form those neurological patterns in our brain, and so our body starts to respond exactly like how we are wired. And it'll be years if you're dealing years with, having anxiety attacks, or responding maybe not in the best way to when a conflict or circumstance arise. If you're doing that for many years, then your body is kind of, it's wired that way, and it will respond that way all the time. And it takes a lot of intentional work, hard work, to start to change those things. And when I started the Art of Being a Woman masterclass last year in February 2020, or March thereabouts, and I was faced with the question, who taught you those skills? Who taught you how to dream and move from your dream to goals? Who taught you how to make decisions? Who taught you how to design your self image, and to build your, to not build yourself with, but to maintain your self worth? Who taught you how to build growth friendships? Who taught you how to keep yourself and to keep others accountable? Who taught you how to build healthy boundaries for yourself, for your mental health? And while I am so grateful for the lessons that I've learned and even the things my parents taught me, I realized like nobody even taught them certain things of how to deal with life. There's nothing in school that really prepares you for those things. You might get a course on maybe entrepreneurship, so you could build your dream business. But if you have a dream of having a peaceful home or something like that, nobody is really teaching you that. Home economics is not really covering that fully, you know what I mean? So we really weren't equipped with these skills to deal with certain things. And this world has shifted completely. It went from, especially for us women, we went from us like fighting for the right just to vote to now having our self-worth be questioned, come into question every day, where it is we are put against each other, we are being compared to, we are being put in a place where you need to be doing it all. You need to be a working woman, you need to be a mom. If you can't have children, then your value is less. If you don't have this amount of wealth, your value is less. And it's crazy, but our self-worth is being questioned every day, and we're the ones questioning it. And it really is a crisis. And something that we share in the women's school that I want to share with you guys, it's more of a visual of what I'm explaining. Oops, not that way, this way. And it really is. Now, I know this is catered to women because it's from the women's school, but we also have the man's school, and it's basically it's the the shift affects everybody. But for women in particular, you can see that it went from like voting rights, and then you're starting to learn the work from home dynamic shift, that shift of becoming working women. And then the internet, which challenged communication and fighting for attention. And then it came to like the perfection, where everybody was supposed to be perfect, else you're less than. And now with everything that's going on with the pandemic and the things that we've learned generations coming down, our self-worth is in crisis. And it's so important for us to keep talking about that, because I realized that my self-worth was in serious crisis, where I was so accustomed to achieving and accomplishing certain things that when I didn't do that, or when I made a mistake in something I was doing, I felt like I lost some value. And that might be something different in your life. Maybe it is that you were always the best cook or something like that, and you maybe messed up a meal or something, and persons said something about it, and you put your whole worth in that when that happens, you feel like you're less than, you feel like you're less valuable, because that's where you build your worth up. Or if you're like a mom and you're not able to, you have to go back out into the working world, and you can't be stay home with your daughter, with your son or daughter, or the other way around, where it is you are stay at home mom and you're not being able to go to work and contribute to the household. And we put our worth in these things. Like if we don't have the best body, no, I could go on about that, because there's no such thing as the best body, right? You have healthy bodies. um and you feel like if you don't look a certain way, that you don't matter, or you matter less. And all these things are things of how we have been conditioned. And it really is so unfortunate. And I feel so passionate about it now, because I have a daughter, and I don't want her to start conditioning those things in her mind, like, she needs to do XYZ for her to be loved, because that's where the problem starts, you know. And I'm not discounting like those other things where you have mental health struggles, where you need the additional support, whether it be something medical, maybe it's therapy. And therapy doesn't necessarily mean that you therapy could be for anybody. If you want to be able to handle challenges better in your life, and to learn how to communicate better, and to learn to have better coping mechanisms, then definitely, absolutely go to therapy. It is something that, if it will be helpful to you, it will be helpful to you. So do what you need to. So anyhow, I was saying that our self-worth is in such crisis, and it's where things start to stem. So when we don't know how to set healthy boundaries, when we feel like we don't deserve certain things, when somebody's treating us poorly, and we have this poor self-image, or poor um idea of our self-worth, then we accept the behavior because we think that that's what we deserve. And I'm here to tell you guys that that's not true. We all deserve to feel safe, to feel happy, to have our dreams, to have internal peace. And we usually behave the opposite, like we don't deserve it. And I know, because I would have behaved like that, and I still do to some extent sometimes in other arenas of my life. But you can do the work to get there. And it starts with your thoughts. It starts about changing the narrative in your mind. And that's really where things have helped me. Trying to have power scripts to say to myself, like, I'm resilient. I am a woman of vision. I'm a woman of solution. I can manage my mind and emotions and these things. And but not necessarily saying that you're not gonna have bad days at all. Because that's not that's just not life, right? But knowing that when you have a bad day, or if you make a mistake, or anything to that extent, that doesn't make you less valuable. When you were born, you had worth, you had self-worth. But because when we started growing up, and we realized that we had to please people, or we had to prove ourselves, or we needed to produce and perform to get that love, and to get that praise and validation, then those are the things we start to perpetuate as we keep going on in life. And it takes a lot to squash those patterns and rebuild new ones. But I am here to tell you that it is absolutely possible to do it. But it's going to take work. It's going to be a painful sometimes, because you have to start from a place of self-awareness, understand where you are, like what you feel like you deserve, and really delve deep into why you're afraid to go for that dream, or you would never even think about going for it. It's probably because you feel like you don't deserve it. And if that's your passion, if that's what's in your heart, then that's there for a reason. God put that there for a reason. And you going on that path to get that thing and becoming the person who has that dream is the prize, is the contribution in this life is you. You know, your worth is in who you are. Each one of us has a special path, a special journey, a special contribution in this world, and we really have to just tell ourselves that, and know that, because knowing, and no, not just knowing, but being it, because knowing is not being. And I know that for sure. I know that for sure because years and years you probably spend time going to retreats or to conferences or listening to a webinar or something that, you know, it would have inspired you, and you're like, you know, these persons are making sense. Even listening to me right now could possibly inspire you and be like, you know, what yeah, she's saying is really true. My worth is me, and it's not what I do. It's all well and good to listen to those things, but then when you go back into the circumstance and you haven't built the habits necessary to change it, then you're going to fall back into the same patterns. Because like I said, if you've spent years, decades with having this particular behavior, and then one day you want to change it just like that, it was not going to happen like that. So it comes with intentionality and making that promise to yourself every day to form that habit. Because in an article by Albert Ian Gray that we're currently reading called The Common Denominator of Success, he says that like people form habits and habits form futures. So it's all about what you're doing now. And I mean, we hear about it a lot in the health sphere. Like, you know, you need to, if you want to be healthier, you know, you need to have a routine, you need to exercise this amount of time every day, you need to eat this way and form those habits. But that is something that we need to do for everything. If we want to have a clean home, it means maybe making up the bed every day. If we want to have a growth friendship, it means maybe checking on your friend every day, having a dream session together, coming together to build vision boards, to dream for the future. If you want to have your own business, it means every day you take a little step again towards it. It's all about those things. But if you don't come from a place of knowing your worth, then you're not going to be able to stay consistent. And what helped me remember my worth is having those power scripts and repeating them to myself every day until my brain was rewired. And when I had something in me internalized to say to myself when a challenge would come back, would be like, I know, remember, I'm resilient. You know, I am not my mistakes. I am more than my past. You know, things like that to say to yourself in any times. And it may not be that exactly for you. You can use what resonates with you. So last week I had Miss Angie Clay, who talked about journaling and how much it helped her, and she would just write her thoughts on paper. And I think that's something that we can definitely do, you know, to put things down there, take it out of your head and put it there, and go through it and see where the pain points are, and start journaling like your action plan going forward. You know, if it is you need to do meditation, if you need to pray every day, wake up and say a prayer, whatever it is to do. I wore my Zumba jacket today because it's so fitting, because Zumba is another thing that helps me in my health journey. I could have the worst day and I do go to a Zumba class and I feel great, I feel picked up. But it needs to come from a place of self-worth. Because if I didn't have that, then after the Zumba class I'd go straight back to zero. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I made any sense here tonight for you guys, but I just want to keep that conversation going because your mental health is everything, and your health is everything. And it comes to your spiritual, to your emotional, to your physical, and your mental. All of it comes together, and we really need to take care of it, because it's if we are not taking care of it, then we can't give fully. We can't contribute in the way we were meant to. And it's really important that we take the time to check in with ourselves, to check in with one another, to really do the things that make us happy, guys, at the end of the day. And don't put your worth in one thing. Like, it's, you're not this one thing. You're not, if you're here and you're here because you have been diagnosed with PCOS, you're not PCOS. If you have been dealing with some mental health struggle like anxiety, depression, you are not that thing. You are you, and you are special, and you have a contribution. And it might be hard, but you are worth doing the things to make yourself come out of it. And you can come out of it. There is hope. But you have to find your self worth, and you have to build those habits, those everyday habits to get there. And before you know it, you will become it. It'll be so ingrained in you. You would have changed those years of patterns, of those negative patterns, into positive ones. Because and why you need to be so intentional about that is because if you just erase and don't replace, I'm saying that completely wrong. Don't just erase, replace. Because if you cut out a bad habit and think that you're going to be okay and you didn't replace it with something good, then you're going to pick up another bad habit, right? So, like, if it is, I tell myself, it's like, you know what? I'm going to stop eating bourbon biscuits. And then Charles come out with their Charles smoker. No, this is a real thing. And he was like, okay, well, I gave up bourbon, but Charles brought this in. Well, that's a real simple version, but I'm just saying, it's like, if you don't actually replace it with something better or good, you're gonna go into another bad habit. So I'm gonna conclude now, I think. And I just really want, if you guys have any questions and you want to reach out to me for any reason, please do. The reason that I became a strategist with the women's school is because of these things. Is because it helped me understand the neurological side of things, and it helped me to start rewiring things to do the things that I'm doing now, to change my path and follow my dreams and be use my voice and my journey to help other persons. I wouldn't have done that if I didn't start that process. I still have some ways to go. I know I have some certain blocks that I need to work on, certain roadblocks I need to work on, but we're all gonna get there. But it comes from a place of self-awareness, building mindsets, and building these skill sets, which is what the women's school really helped me to do. It really all comes down to building that skill, guys. Honestly, anything you could build confidence, you could build that muscle to dream. It comes down to a skill, really and truly. And you can do it. Just what you focus on expands. So try to focus on the good things in your life and focus on making yourself reach your full potential. I don't want to say change, because it does mean becoming a more elevated version of yourself, but a more elevated version of you. Because we've learned all these patterns and it kind of started hiding who we are. So we need to unlearn those patterns. So this is me unraveling so that I could get to the essence of you. And that's what we need. That's what the world needs. The world needs you. So I'm going to leave it there. But if you want to continue the conversation, please check out my page. Or maybe I could drop it here. Or check us out on Clubhouse, the Shresh and Yash Club, in the next 14 minutes, where we're going to go over there to talk about mental health and how we cope with it and things. So I'm going to continue the conversation over there. Too many C's in that sentence. So thank you guys for tuning in. Reach out to me if you also want to know more about the Art of Being a Woman Masterclass with the Women's School and how to be part of one of my groups. Send me a message and I could talk to you about that. So take care, guys. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. Bye.